Today I'm going to be drawing this dog portrait of a Black Labrador named Chloe. I had a few requests asking me to draw a black dog, so here's me trying. These are my usual settings for my canvas, and today I'll be turning it portrait. Black dogs are hard to draw and photograph because it's hard to recognize where the highlights and the shadows hit, but I chose this as my reference photo since the sun was hitting her face nicely. After inserting the reference photo in the first layer, I'm going to add another layer on top so I can start outlining her face. For the outline, I'm using the Studio Pen tool in black, and I didn't get to show you in the video, but the lines will be a lot smoother with the streamline setting high, which you can change by clicking on the brush type. I'm gonna start outlining from her ears, but I noticed that it's hard to see, so I'm going to click on the N button on layer 1 to decrease the opacity a little bit. So now that it's easier to see, I'm gonna be working in small strokes so it looks like her fur. After I outline her face, I decided to use the same brush to outline her eyes and nose as well, and I'll be filling in them later. I'm making sure how the outline looks by itself by making layer 1 invisible. I'll be moving on to coloring, so I'm going to duplicate layer 1 on a different layer and making it smaller on the screen so I have a second reference photo to look at on the side when coloring. I like to erase the background so it's easier to see. On a layer underneath the outline, I'm going to start coloring by using the Freycinet brush in 100% opacity and in this gray color taken from the reference photo. Once I fill the whole face in with this gray color, I'm adding a new layer and using a slightly darker gray, adding shadows on her face where I noticed them in the photo. On the same layer, in an even darker gray, I'm going to continue adding more shadows, trying to accentuate the darker parts on her face. After adding the shades, I'm adding a new layer on top to color in the tongue. Taking a nice pink from the photo, I'm coloring in the tongue and continuing with a darker pink for the shadows as well. I'm gonna take a lighter pink now to add the highlights. I'm also going to add highlights on the nose back in the shadow layer. After I'm done with that, I'll be moving to the eyes on a new layer where I use the same brush. I'm going to be taking colors I see in the photo like browns and the blues to fill in like so, and finishing it off by adding the white highlights reflected in her eye. After I'm done, I like to zoom out and check if there's anything out of place or unnatural, and I noticed that the fur around her mouth is a little bit too much, so I reshaped that using the eraser tool. After that, I added a lilac background color and also added her name in the same pink as the tongue to put it all together. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you again in the next video.